Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we have a friend of mine, Mandi Ellefson. I've been in a mastermind group with her. It was a couple of years ago, but we went well over a year and a half. We've stayed in touch. We communicate on a regular basis, a lot through social media, private messaging, emails, a phone call every now and then. She is a smart individual. She specializes in helping business owners get out of their own way. And I can say this because I need help getting out of my own way. I grilled her. This was like free consulting. You got to look over my shoulder as I essentially said, okay, help me. And we just kept the recorder on. And if you follow me for any amount of time, you can tell us kind of what I do. I ask the questions that I'm interested in. And fortunately, you're interested in them too, because you and I are quite the same. We want to grow. We want to have success in our lives and our families and our health. And so I ask the questions that we all want to know of smart people. So you're in for a treat with Mandi. As I've mentioned the last few shows, please come hang out with us. We are continuing the conversation in the private Facebook group I created, the Implementors. So those that want to implement, those who want to mentor, those who are willing to be mentored. Come join us, theimplementors.com. Now let's bring on Mandi. Mandi Ellefson, my California entrepreneurial friend, masterminder, and the hands-off CEO. That's you, right?
That's me.
Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I detected a little pause there. Are you really fantastic? Do we do an intervention here right in the very beginning?
You know, as soon as I said that, I actually thought, you know what? No one's going to believe that I'm actually fantastic. I really am, though. I'm feeling great.
All right. I'm just making sure, because I'm here for you if you need me. All right. We'll get right into counseling.
Okay. Shoulder to cry on. Duly noted. Thank you.
That's why I do this remotely, because if it's like too much crying, then we'll get some static on the line and solar flares, and we'll just have to cut out. I'm just saying, that's me. So what the heck, hands-off CEO? What does that mean? I thought we got to manipulate people and micromanage them and be all up in their business.
Yeah, well, the idea of the hands-off CEO is to really create the business that you want, whether that is a business that could run more without you so that you could take weeks off at a time and just have your team be running your business for you, or whether that's so that you can really hunker down and just go full force with sales and marketing to really grow your company. Or, some of my clients, they wanted to become hands-off so that they can actually grow the business as an asset and then sell it. Right. So, it really kind of depends on what your goals are for why you want to be hands-off. But what it really does is it gives you freedom to really create whatever it is you want in your business and your life.
So I see that a lot. And I'm kind of a victim of this, having the Sales Whisperer and, it's me. It's my trademark. And I'm adding to the team, but slowly. And man, a lot of starts and stops. I have kissed a lot of frogs. So goodness gracious. Fortunately, I don't want to do anything else, so I'm okay for now. But still, I look at the bigger picture. I look at Zig Ziglar, and how he was able to build something bigger than him. And but then I see Tony Robbins, and I don't know. He's built something bigger than him, but he's still the main draw.
Right. Right. He is the organization.
Yeah. So how do people like us diversify? How do I replace myself when I am the Sales Whisperer?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I think the first thing is that, well, see, you're the Sales Whisperer, Wes, but it's not Wes Schaefer is not the business necessarily. So you actually have a brand. So that's a good step in the right direction. I think where you can get into trouble is when your name really is the business, like Tony Robbins. But I don't know if that's even a problem though, because if that's a business he likes and it's working for him, then, then why would I say that's wrong?
Right.
But the companies that I tend to work with the most, they have some kind of service, whether it's like marketing consulting services, or they have some kind of agency, or maybe a technology services company. And we all start out as the brains of the operation, right? Our success in the business is because of all the skills that we have to bring to the table. And at some point, as you know, you're kind of talking about, and I know you and I have had some conversations about this with your own business, but at some point you like start hitting up against your own capacity, your own hours, and you're kind of put a choice here whether you want to work more hours or whether you want to find more efficient ways of doing the work so that you can keep on growing.
Right.
So there's a couple approaches to that. There's just becoming more efficient, and then you just increase the capacity, but it's still, there's only so much you can grow that way. And then there's opportunities for how you can really be building out your organization so that you're increasing quality as you're growing, and you're delivering bigger and better outcomes, and you're doing it in a way that requires less and less of you.
Right.
Those are typically the clients that I work with.
It's so hard. Why is it so hard finding good people? Am I just not good at finding good people? Or are there just not any good people out there?
There's plenty of good people out there. It's just that you really have to. They're not. They are hard to find.
They're hiding, right?
They're hiding. Oh. Well, they're hiding. They're hiding in really good jobs, is what they're doing. So they're hiding, working for someone who is they're either not happy and they're looking for the next thing, or they are happy and you need to look at how can you create that same dynamic in your company. And for me, I like to look for people who are really hungry or resourceful and who I can contribute to, because when I bring on staff, I want to contribute to them and to grow them. Because first of all, it's just good, makes good sense for my business, because then I'm going to have the only asset in the only appreciating asset in your business are your people. Right. So you can invest in them, they can get better and better. But at the same time, if I'm investing in someone and they feel like, she really cares, she wants to make a difference in me, they're going to work a whole lot harder. And it's been my experience that experts can take on employees who can kind of be like the proteges, and they're really interested in learning from them, and you can get a whole lot better talent for your budget. I'm not necessarily saying you rip anybody off, but if you have a budget of, say, $15 an hour or $20 an hour, you might be able to get $60 an hour type of work. And they can really contribute to your company that way. So that's one of the ways that I've used in the past to attract excellent, high-level people to my company who are eager to learn and eager to contribute.
Right. Yeah, and it's funny. It's like I love teaching and training, but man, I'm so impatient when it's my staff. And I guess if they're not as hungry as me, I don't know. I've had. I don't know, when somebody, they got to have that motivation. That's probably the issue. Either people weren't motivated or they had different motivations that later came to fruition. I mean, people leaving and stealing clients and business and stuff. It's like, you were here just to get my info.
Yeah. And you can run into that if you choose the wrong person. And for me, I'm always like, the number one thing I'm always looking for is trust. I want a relationship where I can hand them the keys to my house and they can walk in and I can totally trust them. That's the kind of relationship I want, that level of trust. And as soon as that trust is gone, they're gone. Like right. There's no relationship left. But I think that the problem you're speaking to happens when you're not quite clear on exactly the person for the role, or the role is not defined well enough, because I think you're going to have we can't look at an employee and expect to have them the same kind of drive as an entrepreneur, because they're not entrepreneurial for the most part. And that can be a good thing too, because if you find someone as entrepreneurial and as hardworking and all of that as you're already paying them as much as yourself, and you make no money, right? But there are people who are very driven. They're not entrepreneurial, but they're driven in a different way. So I think it's important to recognize that and to really be listening from where they're coming from and understanding their motives, because I generally think, good people, they have good reasons for doing things. So when you're really looking at something and trying, it's best to understand, why did they make this decision, and understand from there so that you can help them understand how they can get better results.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Sure. But how do you know what their motivations are?
Well, I generally like to assume that people have good motivations. You mean by that, like their motivations, like their intentions, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I generally think that people have good intentions. I like to assume that they have good intentions until they show me otherwise. That doesn't mean that I just let anyone in the company and just see how they go. Perry Marshall talks about hiring as not like an interview process, but as an audition. So I definitely structure my interview process as that. And I just have gone through some interviewing process, and I had one woman on trial who looked pretty good and passed some of the earlier tests with flying colors. Then she got in, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work. She couldn't follow instructions. And you wouldn't believe how many people cannot follow simple instructions.
Right.
It's bizarre how difficult instructions are for people. So when I'm laying out my job ads, I always have lots of little requirements for them, so that, but when they're writing that first email to me and I'm screening it, I've basically asked for, about 20 different things, 20 different directions that they need to follow. Now, if they get about 18 or 19 out of 20, they probably can look at details to some extent. Right. Any less than that, don't even look at them.
Right.
But what I mean by that is, like, put the first paragraph black sans serif size 12, and second paragraph this, and a total of 13 sentences. That sort of thing, and attach your resume, and you just right away, like, I could scroll right down to it, and about 25% of people forgot to attach their resume.
Right.
Like, so anyway, there's a lot of ways that you can screen people, and the ways you screen people aren't going to be the same for each type of role too. Like, if I'm hiring a graphic designer, I'm not going to expect the same level of attention to detail like I would, like if I was having them do a writing assignment. I wouldn't have them do the same level of attention to detail with a writing assignment as I would for a graphic design piece, if that makes sense. So It's not all the same.
What do you see, like, common mistakes with your clients that are trying to become that hands-off CEO, or is everybody kind of unique?
I think that there are unique parts to it, but I see the same challenges over and over again. And one of the first ones that I see is that they're thinking about growth all wrong, and they're focusing on, sales. I mean, we got to increase our marketing. And while that is absolutely true, it's only true to a certain extent. And I wish I could kind of show my hands here, because, like, let's imagine your goals, you're going to grow your goal, the target you're trying to hit this year is $1 million. Let's say that. Now, let's say your capacity, like the current capacity in your company, is like 700,000. And if you're at $500,000 right now, sales and marketing is only going to grow you from 500 to 700. So there is a capacity between 700 and $1 million that you need to deal with. So what I see happen is that before a company will even get to 700, they'll maybe go from 5 to 600. Like that's usually where they slow down and pull back the reins on their sales and marketing, because they simply don't have enough time and resources to bring on more clients, because it starts to get really stressful for the owner, and whether they realize it or not, they just start pulling back, and it can happen very quickly before they even know it, and they don't even realize it's kind of an illusion. They can push a little bit more. There's a little more capacity there. But at a certain point, you really have to be building more capacity in your company, and shifting your business model really, so that you can have $1 million company. Because if your business model only allows for a $500,000 company, I mean, you're never going to be able to grow past that.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest problems that I see with almost all service companies I run into.
So because it is an issue. I mean, basically, like they say in football, you outkick the coverage, right? You outsell the capacity to fulfill. Then, I've had orders delayed. Then they start canceling their orders, right? Which means I lose my commission. And it's like, hey, boss, I did my job, right? I made the sales you told me to go make, and now you can't fulfill. And that, that usually doesn't end well. But I saw it on the flip side as well. When I was in the telecom industry, 2000, 2004, the first time around, everything was booming after the .com, boom. But then we didn't realize it was all collapsing in 2000. I remember working with, I think it was Alcatel. I was one of the, maybe Corning, actually, on the making the fiber optic cable. And they had so much pent up demand, and they were debating, like, should they build another factory? And fortunately they didn't, right? Because everything collapsed. Like literally within 6 months, it went to almost zero. The industry locked up when the NASDAQ came crashing down. So, how do you balance that? How do you balance, ramping up manufacturing versus ramping up sales? Is it kind of like leapfrog one another? Okay, let's grow sales a little bit. Okay, now we'll catch up manufacturing. Maybe we'll expand capacity a little bit. Now let's increase sales a little bit.
Right. You know what? And what you're talking about is definitely like a right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. You just to keep step back and forth. And when it comes to manufacturing, the costs of building up more facilities and like the hard cost for infrastructure is quite a lot. So that is a whole other consideration, and it's quite a challenge. When it comes to service companies, though, the advantage is that you actually can build a system that is a lot more scalable, that scales up, scales down. One of my clients, he has a service called Skyscraper SEO. This company is Connex, and they have built a system that runs 95% without the owner. And he runs it from anywhere in the world, runs all over the world. And what's really great about it is that they've broken down the strategy, and this is pretty high level strategy with link building, and he's been able to break it down to such a science, and he compartmentalized the different pieces of it that he actually can scale up and scale down, and it's not so people dependent. So it is a lot easier to grow and contract with demand,
right?
With whatever demand that he wants to be creating at that time. So that's one of the advantages to a service company, because you can be a little bit more flexible. But when you're dealing with permanent employees and all of that, that can be harder. But the one thing that you can consider doing is relying on contractors when it comes to the areas of the business that are going to be a little more variable, and that will be one way that you can ride out through some of the ups and downs.
Yeah, I had Landon Ray on this morning, the founder and CEO of Entreport, and they're coming out with a new release. And I love what he said early on, was that being an entrepreneur, launching a business, it's really about building systems. And most people don't think in terms of systems. And your typical entrepreneur, the dreamer, the visionary, the shiny object chaser does not organically think in terms of systems, right? They're, by definition, they're the visionary, big picture, go let somebody else make it happen. But would you say that to become that hands-off CEO, do you help them make these types of systems? I mean, is that really the kind of the secret key?
Yes, it is part of it. There's really a couple parts to it. One part of it is the leadership. Leading your company in a hands-off way requires you refusing to answer certain questions for your staff. By saying when they come and ask you dumb questions that they should know, this is an opportunity for you to say, well, what do you think you should do? And to really set it up in a way where they can be resourceful, and that requires a certain level of management and leadership, so that you could be leading your team to actually be then training other people in the team, and that's a higher level of leadership than most entrepreneurs when they're starting their company think that they need to do. Because a lot of companies, when they're growing, they're like, okay, I just need to put some more systems in the business, and then but the systems alone will not grow the business. And I know this because I've worked with some clients before who they've have the systems all laid out in the business, everything's looking good, and they come to me and they're like, you know what, I can't get my people to do anything. I've got all these systems and they're just lazy, and I just can't get them to do this work. And they think that the systems are just going to be the holy grail, is going to fix everything in their business. But the reality is that the people are not machines, and you need to have a way that you can motivate and you can inspire your team to utilize and to build these systems so that they're part of the overall business and that they're contributing. And I would disagree that it's just about systems, and some experts out there would actually say that it's almost just all about systems and it's not about the people at all. And I think it's really a combination of it. And I think the beauty it can happen is when you utilize your people to build the systems, and then there's a lot more buy-in. It's a lot less stress for you because you don't have to sit there and build all these systems yourself. You're just orchestrating the process.
Right. So is it, when you're bringing on these people, it seems like, I don't know, people, they either want more than they're worth, or, I interviewed this young girl 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago, brand new out of college, and we're talking about an internship, but we couldn't connect. She was just had this utopian idea of what work would be like, and I was just like, I can't even give you an internship, It's like, what's the secret? Give me the secret, Mandi.
Well,
I know I'm not alone.
And I think you're alluding to something, because I did see in a Facebook post you were talking about this, and it was rather a humorous update. I laughed about it a lot, and I think I might have even shared it. And
I cried a little.
Did you? Well, what you're pointing to is an entitlement issue. And you're screening out in your hiring process for entitlement people as well. And you know what? Someone who I had interviewed for this position that I just filled, she had everything that I was looking for, and checked all of the boxes. And there was just this one thing that she said to me that made me realize, after getting off the phone with her and thinking about it a little bit more, that this is a woman who is very entitled, and it was something along the lines of she doesn't want to be doing things for me that I could be doing myself. And because she kind of just felt like I would just be, it was something along those lines. And what I really got from that is this is not a woman who is going to really be of service to my clients. And this is a woman that really cares about her needs, and not necessarily the needs of the growing company
right.
that I have. And, when there's this entitlement issue on your team, oh man, it's toxic.
Right.
I have zero patience for it. And there's plenty of people out there that don't have the entitlement issue. So you just find those ones, get really clear on what you're looking for, and then you just screen them out.
Yeah. Is there a better place to find people? Are you finding just good old word of mouth? I mean, can I post something on Facebook, or do I need to keep more of a distance, more of a professional type relationship to find the people that I need?
Well, your best employees tend to come from your network. So if you have people who can introduce someone, I mean, by all means do that, especially if it's going to be a part-time role like a contractor where they're going to be working with other people and you just need them to fill in for certain parts. I think that the network that would be my go-to place for someone like that I just want them to be doing, maybe 10 hours a week or something to fill in on a very specific task. Let's say like Infusionsoft support or something like that. If I wanted someone permanent in my company, I would just think about who is this person that I'm going to be hiring, and where are these people going to be hanging out, and then you just write a job ad as if you would an advertising piece. Like you say, this is a marketing piece that you're writing to attract the exact type of person you're looking for. You don't write it to the person to like try to disqualify all the people you don't want. You have plenty of time to disqualify later. What you're doing is trying to attract with the perfect language that is going to appeal to them. So for me, I'm talking about the kind of flexible lifestyle and contributing to a bigger cause and like those type of things, because that's the kind of person I want to attract, because it means so much more to them to have a flexible lifestyle where they can stop and go in the middle of the day and go visit their kids at school and help out, where they can be there to help their sick mother, that sort of thing. That's what I'm looking for. So that's what I put into my copy when I'm writing it. So really, you just want to look at where are these people going to be hanging out. And I love flexjobs.com. There's really high level people there, and that is location independent work.
Right.
Some of it can be flex too. So you might find someone in your area that is like part telecommute. So that's a really good one. It's hard to get approved actually for your business.
Oh, yeah.
They pull you through the ringer a bit.
Right.
But just be patient with it and keep bugging them about it. But I think it took them about a month for them to finally to approve my business. And Odesk for smaller things you could do. It kind of just depends on what you're looking for, really. And if you're looking for like someone to do coding in your company, you might be finding more of a place where all the geeky technology whizzes are going to be hanging out. And that might be job boards specific to the industry might be a better place to find someone like doing Ruby on Rails.
Right.
Versus you're not going to find them on Flex Jobs, for example.
Right. Yeah. Each one has different expertise or niche, right?
Right. So I don't see it any different than marketing. So you could run Facebook ads to the right group, if that's what you want to do as a specific role. Right. But it's just like marketing.
Right. So when you're working with a client, I mean, is there kind of a sweet spot? Like, what's the average size company you're typically dealing with?
I really like working with companies that are multiple six-figure range up to the low seven figures.
Okay.
And the reason why I like working with them is because I love working with the CEOs. I do work with companies that are a little bit larger than that from time to time, just because, like, if I really like them and I think it's going to be a fun project. But my program it fits really well for that size of group, and they have this common challenge where they're growing really fast, but they haven't been able. They're stopped by their own capacity, by their own time, and they don't want their life to implode.
Right.
In their efforts to grow their company, and some of them are kind of on that path,
yeah.
And they need to get off of that path.
Do you find that the owner, founder, CEO is usually the bottleneck to growth?
Yeah, always. That's always the case. Yeah.
Well, don't
100%
sugarcoat it. All right, just give it to me straight.
Well, and you know what, too? And the first step that I do to look at that is I help them find more time. And so I guarantee my clients I'll help them find 40 extra hours per month. And that's just like to get started. That's just from a few tweaks. And then we use that time to then go and do the work of carving out more capacity and increasing the quality as they're growing and doing the team building work that it's going to require. I mean, this is work. And any client who thinks that any business I'm talking to who thinks there's some kind of silver bullet or something, like they're not the client for me.
Yeah.
Because there is work, but it's the work is the kind of work that you do it once and then it keeps on adding value to you on and on. It's the kind of work where you go from working till 2:00 in the morning every day and sometimes through the night to then being able to work till 4:00 and then, having your wife quit her day job so she can stay home with the kids. And, like that's the kind of work that it is because it totally changes your life.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when people come to you, are they at their wits' end, right? Like I'm frantic, I'm frazzled. There's got to be some help. Are they coming to you with a little more forethought? Like, hey, I'm this savvy business owner really looking to grow, or is it kind of run the gamut?
On both ends of that. I'll tell you the one who's like the one who is already like, I'm out till 2:00 in the morning and it's crazy. Like those are definitely people who are more motivated and they're going to get results really fast. I really enjoy working with those kind of clients who like they have something at stake. So, maybe they have a family they want to spend more time with, or maybe they want to retire, but they have some big why. Right. And the kind of clients I don't like working with are the ones who like are just kind of piddling around and they're like they just want growth for growth's sake. Like there's really no reason behind it. It's just like their identity is tied to them being more like quote successful when they don't have anything behind it and driving it. And what that looks like is they just can't quite commit to it, and they're always in the way of doing it. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, and I see it all the time. Money, it really can't buy happiness. I mean, it is how we keep score. Money does buy freedom, right? It can buy the things that can bring happiness, but if you're in it just to make money, you're going to eventually peak, right? And just wear yourself out because I think deep down we all know there's something bigger. We want to be part of something bigger. We want to be part of really a legacy, right? And but I think creating something that lives beyond us is a way to do that. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the kind of clients that I've looked to work with because when they have something at stake, then they're committed. They're driven to get these results. And the ones who aren't as committed, they just tend to spin their wheels and they just and it's hard to really to get out of it because what will happen is they'll burn out. They'll work really, really hard and then they'll burn out, and it's hard to get back from that. And it will just kind of be cyclical. But the people, the kind of entrepreneurs who are driven and they have something at stake. And Wes, I definitely would see you in this category. I mean, you with the work that you do, every hour that you put in, it's a labor of love, and it really blesses your family and it allows your family to live a good, comfortable lifestyle, and also it blesses all the people that you work with and that you help change their life with increasing the sales. I mean, I'm one of those companies. You've helped me increase my sales as well.
That's what I do.
That's what you do.
So when looking at your people, and I know it runs the gamut, but would you say more of them are towards the, oh heck, I'm about to have a heart attack if I don't fix something stage?
I think that those are less common. The reason why is those people will come to me through referrals a lot of times, And what will happen too is they will be so stuck in the business that they won't even hear. So they're harder to reach actually because their head is down, working, and they have no time to even like to look for a solution, if that makes sense.
Right.
So they do come along, but the ones who I tend to work with the most they're like, okay, I'm looking at, I want to grow my company to this point. I don't want to give up my personal life to do it. I've tried all these things and it hasn't quite worked. I've been trying to scale my company for the past 3 years, and we've been stagnant, and nothing we've tried has really moved the needle much. So we're going to have to try something different if we want a different result. So those are the ones who I tend to work with the most,
right?
Just in higher numbers, just because they're actively looking for a solution,
right? And for the most part, do they listen?
If they're my clients, they do.
Well, I mean, sometimes people are funny. Like they come to you and they want to fight, right? They want to argue. It's like, and I tell people, hey, buddy, you came to me. Right? Things aren't right. I'm telling you how to fix it. You don't want to do it? That's fine. I still cash your check. Well,
and you know what, too? Do my clients implement every single thing I tell them to do? No. A lot of times they don't. But they're listening and they're receptive, but even if they implement 20% of what I have them do, if it's the right 20%, man, it's going to change their business.
Right.
So they don't have to implement everything I tell them to do to really get a fantastic result. And it's a process too, because you're not going to become a hands-off CEO in 3 months or 6 months, and you'll make a huge progress towards it, and you'll become much, much more hands-off in your company. And by 6 months, I like to see my clients be able to actually like step away from their company for at least a week, like what I call a stress test.
Right.
And so like there's steps in the right direction, and I've had clients that have been with me for years because they are keeping, they're stepping up to the next level and the next level and the next level, and it's giving them more and more freedom. So there's always that next level.
So I was just thinking about something. Are you working just one-on-one? Do they ever bring in a spouse or a partner or a senior executive on the team and to either help or maybe even help transition off, to that executive that they want to kind of run things?
Yes. And I do work with multiple members of the team at different times.
Right.
Sometimes I'll work with an operations manager who maybe have been newer to be promoted, and they're utilizing this operation manager to help build out some of the systems in the business and build out the structure, and doing it at the same time as they're training them in this new role. So I've done work like that, and as the companies get larger, you are working with more than just the owner.
Right.
But a lot of times when it's in the multiple six-figure range, I'm working with one of them. And I do work with partnerships and all that too. But you know what I find? And this is probably one where you're just like, you're not doing it right. But like, I find that the sales process is so much harder for like a partnership than just a solo business owner, because inevitably there's one person who's really analytical and like really averse to fear and won't try anything new, and then the other one's like guns ablaze and let's do this,
Right.
And like I don't do any of this convincing stuff in my sales process. It's just like it's a qualification process. I'm looking at if the right fit or not, and if they want me to like be juggling and doing tricks and everything, then like it's not really the right fit. Or the problem is that they haven't gone through like they haven't had a chance to really look through my marketing materials to see if it really is a good fit. Where with a partnership, you'll have one person who's like really gung ho and they've gone through all of that, and the other one they just kind of drug along. Have you ever seen that, Wes?
Yeah, and that can be tough. And I've struggled with my own bringing in people into the business. I've had folks, come in that I wanted to groom, become a partner, get a piece of the action. And we ended up butting heads. They have a different vision. Rather than trying to execute my vision, they want to change the vision. And, and it's like, I can understand maybe shaping it. Maybe, if I'm off, I'm heading at the 90-degree angle, and they maybe we get to 80 degrees or 70 degrees or 110 degrees, but when they want to shift me 180 degrees, right? And it just doesn't cut it. I'm like, no, it's my business. It's my vision. The only reason you're even here is because of my vision and hustle of what I created. And now I just want to help. I need help accelerating it. I don't need help changing it.
And see, bringing on a partner type of role can be a bit maybe dangerous for that goal that you have.
Right.
So maybe that's part of it. And the other thing that I really like to emphasize with my clients and with my staff too is that it's not my business. I want it is my business, but it's our business and it's our clients, and I want my employees to have ownership. I want them to be treating my clients with the same level of love and care that I would give them. And the only way that they'll do that is if they feel ownership to it.
Right. Well, I mean, and I've been willing to give up ownership, but ownership of like income and the business, right? But
right.
Still, it's like,
but
we're taking this thing where I want to go.
Oh yeah, definitely. Your job as a CEO is to set the vision, and you need to hire people that are going to help you to implement the vision.
Right.
But what I really meant by that is that it's important. Language is very important because using things like our business, we do this. That language it's inclusive. And it helps encourage them to feel ownership in it. That's really what I was meaning by that. Because, words do matter.
Right. Sure. So do you get involved with helping them with the legalese or bringing in, attorneys? Because that can be very tricky. Like if I bring somebody in and, hey, buddy, you get 10% of the income growth, but only 3% ownership of the business or whatever, or I'm just throwing out numbers, because that can be pretty dang tricky, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I would definitely default that to an attorney. And I work with clients around the world, so most of them in Canada and the United States. But if I have a contact to share with them, I can. But really, their best bet is to come up with an agreement. I might give them some feedback on the agreement, but they need to run it by a lawyer in their own state or province.
Right. But I mean, do you help them create those terms, or talk about like what's normal in a particular type of industry, percentage wise, ownership that they would give up?
Well, I think what you're talking about is really like you're bringing on a part equity owner, which is different than what my specialty is. I actually am not. My specialty is not necessarily in bringing on employees and contractors and just staff in general that are going to be compensated with part ownership in the company. Right. I think an easier way of doing that would be profit sharing.
Right.
Than actual ownership in the company. I don't like giving up equity.
Right.
For a number of reasons, because then it takes away your decision-making power, and I don't like to give up control. It's sure. It's my company, and I use the right language, when I'm talking with my staff, but it is mine, and I don't want anyone to be making the decisions, the big important decisions for right. me on that. So, but yeah, so my process more is along the lines of taking taking high-level skills and being able to distill them down to a point where the lowest level skill is required. And the reason for that is that, first of all, it allows you to hire for fit rather than skill. That's one of the things that you were alluding to earlier. It's so hard to find staff that have this certain level of skill, that have this certain attitude and everything. And when you have your business model refined down to a point, kind of like that client I was mentioning that had gotten his company down to 95% running without him, the level of skill required to run his service is much lower than other companies in his niche.
Sure.
And the same thing can happen when you are doing high-level consulting work. Because the way it really works is that there's all these decisions that you're making strategically that if you sat down and you looked at, what is the real outcome we're getting here, and refined it down to, okay, well, who are the best people we can provide this outcome for that's the most profitable, and then looking at, what is it going to take for us to guarantee this outcome?
Right. And
then breaking that down such that you have 80% that's based on a framework, a process that can be moved around like little pods that you might need for each individual project, but they're templated, right?
Right.
And then 20% of it can be based on a framework for making decisions. And then if you can get out of 80% of the service delivery, and if you can break down the level of skill required for that 80%, first of all, it's going to free you up a lot to be doing more selling. And second of all, it's going to have you're going to have better quality because there's a way to do it. And third, it's just easier to find good people. But I have seen over and over again when you put a process like this in place, and I call this my success map. So you have the strategic work. You can break it down to about 20% of the process. And I've seen clients where they've been able to go, their initial work, they have gone from like 3 months of onboarding. They might call it the onboarding process, but they might have 3 months full of this strategic work that the owner's mostly doing. And they've been able to distill it down to like a couple days. Right. So three whole months to a couple days. So what does that do for you when you have all this extra capacity, and that you can do your work for a couple days and then pass it off for your team to deliver the rest?
So, getting back to like you're talking about sharing the profits, not the equity. Can you get good people that are happy with just a piece of the action from the profits versus owning a piece of the business?
Yes. I don't have profit sharing with my current structure right now. I've had great employees that have worked for me without profit sharing. So I think it kind of depends on the role you're looking for. If you're hiring salespeople, they're probably going to want that. But like, what kind of roles are you specifically talking about? So I know what we're talking about the right thing.
I'm talking about like a senior level person that you can basically hand the business over. Somebody that I'm just thinking if I'm going to outsource myself, right, and cut back 95% of the work I'm doing, whoever's running that business, it seems like that's going to be a more capable, competent individual that will need to be compensated accordingly.
Well, yes, but this type of role is someone I would develop. I would look for a certain base level skills and competencies, but really more than anything, the right fit.
Right.
And I would be developing them. And like that success map structure I was telling you about, you're not going to be able to get somebody to do that unless you have that kind of structure in place. And it will fail most of the time unless you have a structure like that for them to actually implement. Because first of all, it's going to be so difficult for you to train them. And otherwise, if you don't have something like that, then what you're doing is it's very people dependent. So when you're kissing a lot of frogs, you're going to keep on doing that because it's very difficult to find the level of skill you're looking for and the fit and all of that. And I just have seen from experience that those people are better developed in your company, and for you to promote them. And yes, you can have profit sharing be part of it at that time, but I think it's something you grow into, and there's not really hard and fast rules for it. And I think it's going to depend on the industry and how competitive it is, on the person's goals. And it's really just coming from, what does this person value? Is this person looking to maybe buy the company from you at some point?
Right.
Is this person looking to just learn as much as they possibly can and see this as like an amazing opportunity to learn and get paid at the same time? I like people like that.
Yeah.
So you have to really just look at that, at what that is, because and there's some especially like working like stay-at-home moms. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say they're like staying home with toddlers. You don't necessarily want toddlers running around in the background, but there are a lot of.
Hold on, I gotta go check my toddler. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you've got that problem, but you know what I mean. Like they're the supervisor of the toddler, and like I've actually had interviews before where like they had a toddler screaming in the background. I'm like, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah, my wife loves our kids way too much to let me supervise them at all. So yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, probably a smart idea. So, but what I was saying by that is that you can have these parents. They're very motivated to stay current and to learn, and they want like a part-time position that they're able to work part-time hours, be there for their children on when they get home from school, and have flexibility. And you can have someone who's just working really hard and wants to learn and wants to stay current. And there's a lot of those kind of people on flex jobs. Hire My Mom is another one like that as well. So I mean, that's another good place to find talent who. And it's just it really comes down to what's going to motivate them. Like
right.
What's valuable to them. You find out what the right carrot is and you dangle it in front of them.
Right.
And actually, someone during the hiring process, actually one of the candidates was reading through some of my blog posts and actually saw that comment about dangling the right carrot, and she like wrote this just really nasty email, and I'm like, thank you for showing me your true colors.
Wow. So I
know, it was interesting.
I just looked up Hire My Mom, and I can't access it.
I have also heard from some colleagues that they don't like that one as much because there's not as serious a candidates.
Okay.
But I have had clients who've gotten really good project managers from there. So, take it with a grain of salt. There's a lot of great places online to find people. Yeah. And it's just really about going to the place where your ideal type of candidates are looking, and then speaking their language so that you can get as many people applying, like the right kind of people. It's better to have the right kind of people applying than just have thousands of applications.
Yeah, amen. And, I teach that as well, especially on the sales side. Got a nomoresalesduds.com, and talks about how to put your salespeople through the ringer. And really see how they're going to perform, kind of like what you do with the very detailed instructions on the application. Because if so many people are just sitting around, it's usually the duds you don't want are the ones that are applying. So if they can't follow instructions, you don't have to waste your time with it. And so that has freed me up a good bit from, I just can't suffer fools. So I got to have a way to screen them. So that's very important. So I love that tip that you gave in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, all right, Mandi, where do we send people to learn more about you?
Well, if anything that we're talking about here is resonating, and if you'd like to learn how to get your company running without you so you can really drive more sales, so that you can maybe have a little more freedom and definitely grow your company big time, go to handsoffceo.com/roadmap. And what I'll send you if you go there is I will send you a 5-step roadmap to make your company run without you. And this is an actual checklist that my clients use. It's the big picture checklist they use to see, how they are measuring up in the big picture steps that they need to take in order to get the company running without them so they can keep growing it.
Right.
So that's handsoffceo.com/roadmap.
Very cool. Well, I will link to that along with the notes from all this, and I'll see if I can hire my mom to work. Otherwise, we got flex jobs.
I don't know. We need to have a conversation about it. I don't know if that's the right one for. We'll talk a little more.
All right.
Because
I'm interested in all those things. I'm always looking for good people. So, and that's one thing I tell my own clients. You're always recruiting. It doesn't mean you're always hiring, but you're always recruiting. So when you do find the really good one, boom, you'll recognize them and snatch them up. You can always make room for a top performer, but you got to be looking so you know that they're there, right?
Right.
All right. Mandi Ellefson, fellow SoCal resident. Thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast. It's been great.
It was my pleasure, Wes.
Create the business you want so your team can run the business without you. I am still working on that, I guarantee. So some good advice in there, right? Be willing to help your people grow. I'm willing. Maybe I keep kissing the wrong frogs. I don't know. Although I've helped quite a few grow and they leave to try to compete against me. That's life in the big city, right? If you're going to get out there and enter the arena, you're going to get banged up. Like my dad always says, if you're getting stabbed in the back, it means you got to be in the lead. But it still kind of hurts. You know what I'm saying? You got to have people as well as systems, right? People are not machines. It's funny, though. They're a machine when they're working on their own thing. But, hey, I digress. So maybe give them a piece of the action. I don't know. It's possible. But anyway, it can be tough. That's why it's good to bring in outsiders. Bring in people like Mandi to help you remove the blinders, see the blind spots, see the forest for the trees. Somebody with expertise that can help you do that. And if it's growing your staff, Mandi's a great person to talk to. I do. That's why I had her on the show. So make sure, though, that you can step away from your business. She called it a little stress test. I was chatting yesterday with a client of mine, a friend. She's in the East Coast and just has built a chaotic life for herself, literally not sleeping for years. And I'm like, it's not worth it. If you're working 20 hours a day, you're sleeping 1 and 2 hours a night. I don't know how that's even feasible. I don't know how it's physically possible. But if you're doing that for 3 years and you're not succeeding, go take a month off, right? I mean, you can't work 24 hours a day. So if working 23 hours a day doesn't work, then try working 1 hour a day. At a minimum, you'll feel better, physically at least, right? But give your business a little stress test. See how it works without you. It'll probably fail in a few areas, but you'll know where to focus. Then it can run on its own. That's my goal, right? I mean, I'm spending money again, working with experts to create better systems, better programs, raising my prices, creating a whole new structure, a whole new leg of the business. And I've been doing this 11 years, but I just took a picture. Yesterday was Taco Tuesday, and kids were gone, out doing some things. Older kids are out of town, so it was just my wife and me. So, hey, we're cheap dates on a Taco Tuesday. And we go to the grocery store, right? No kids, no baby. We can get a lot of stuff done fast. And I took a picture of the coffee aisle because there was McDonald's right next to Dunkin' Donuts in the Keurig section, right? The little K-Cups. So a donut shop and a fast food shop now have K-Cups. They have coffee sold on the shelves of grocery stores. So what's next? The Stater brothers start selling hamburgers? Oh, wait a minute. They do. Most grocery stores have delis. You can go in and get chicken and I don't know what, potato salad, right? You can get whole meals. So grocery stores are kind of competing with fast food joints. I love me some chicken strips. If you ever come to town and you want to have a meeting with me and you want to, quote, pick my brain, show up with some chicken strips and some gravy and some hot biscuits. And we're probably going to talk a long time. I'm just saying, that's a hint. But I love me some chicken strips from Winco. Goodness gracious. I'm a simple man. So grocery stores are competing with fast food. Fast food now is putting their tentacles into grocery stores, so they're evolving, right? So how are you evolving? Are you just wringing your hands saying, oh, woe is me? Things have changed. Things are harder than they used to be. I'm just a commodity now. I got to lower my prices. I don't know why I'm doing it. McDonald's sells more chicken than Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? Del Taco sells hamburgers. Speaking of which, we were at Carnitas Express, and that's their Taco Tuesday my wife likes now, and I go wherever my wife likes. That's why we made it 22 years and counting. But there was a guy, there was a family of 5 or 6 sitting next to us, and the dad ordered this big old burger, cheeseburger, bacon, at Taco Tuesday at a Mexican food restaurant, and it looked awesome. So I'm going back, but I digress. Companies are branching out. They're testing other things that they can offer. And, there's a couple of ways to look at this. Number one is you got to go deep first. You have to own your niche. You have to own your segment. I just interviewed today, and it'll be a month or so before it goes live, but interviewed Angela Maharg. She owns a company called Datisfy. And not only, she was already in a niche market, but she niched inside of a niche to really grow her business. And she's thriving. So you got to go deep. You got to own your space first. Then you can branch out. Starbucks owned coffee before they branched out. Dunkin' Donuts owned the donut space before they got into coffee, before they now have K-Cups in the grocery store. McDonald's owned, making hamburgers and shakes, right? That's what they did. That was the system. Then they started adding chicken. Then they started adding fish fillet. Then they started adding salads and then yogurt and all this other stuff. So own your niche. But don't just sit on your butt. Right? You got to keep watching. You got to keep looking. And then add other income streams, other ways that you can grow. So keep looking. And then bring in outsiders. When you bring in somebody like me, when you bring in somebody like Mandi, it is so obvious the opportunities, the obstacles. It just is. From somebody on the outside watching, it's just so much easier. So if you're not growing the way you want, invest in an outsider to help you grow. I guarantee you, I'm sitting here fighting with a couple of deals, things I invested in. Now looking back, I shouldn't have, and I am done investing in things outside of my control. Trusting someone else that they know what they're doing, like they're smarter than me in real estate or whatever else. I'm going to learn it my own and invest. But every time I invest in myself, every time I buy a good program, $1,000, $2,000, $15,000. I've done multiple programs that are 5 figures. Okay, and they all paid off eventually. Some immediately. A couple of them took a little while, but either from the information that I learned or the contacts that I made, they paid off. All right, and so invest in yourself. Invest in yourself in programs that you're going to read, or a home study, or a conference that you'll really attend and not just show up and get drunk. All right, pay for a coach, pay for somebody, and you know what? Have high standards. Hold them to it. Make sure they push you, and you're going to grow. All right? Stop chasing the stock market or commodities or cryptocurrencies. If you don't know anything about it, if you can't explain it in a minute, if you can't draw it on the back of a napkin, then you don't know it well enough to go and invest in it. Okay? You know your business. Trust yourself. Trust your gut. Double down on yourself and grow. It'll be worth it. And hey, if you need some help with that, if you want to continue the dialogue, join us. It's a free, private Facebook group, The Implementors, theimplementors.com. If you want to implement, if you want to mentor someone, if you want to be mentored, and you will implement what you're taught. Come hang out, come discuss, come grow. Thanks for listening. Please let me know you're out there by joining our group. Leave some comments, leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, on a blog post, on Twitter, on the Facebookie. And as always, thanks for listening. And remember to sell different.